Good morning, folks. Sharks in the water. Hope you all doing good today. Once again, I'm still improving, getting stronger every day. You know, all that jazz, yada yada yada. I wanted to talk about something today. And this happened maybe about a week or two ago. Someone posted a wait a minute, give me a sec here. Someone posted a photo of one Raphael Warnock. We all know who Raphael Warnock is. You know, he ran against Herschel Walker. You know, he says he's a preacher, but he supports abortion, which a preacher shouldn't be supporting abortion. And, you know, people were like, you know, we want Raphael, you know, and everything. And, you know, and I'm going to say this too. If you are a preacher, you shouldn't be getting into politics. Just straight up. You shouldn't be getting into politics. But anyway, they posted a picture of him, and they posted a quote beside it saying that, and they quoted him saying about abortion, that is exactly what Jesus would do. They quoted him. And, you know, you get some of these people, when someone puts up a meme or something like that, you know, they tend not to believe it because it's a meme. And, so I took it and I reposted it on my Facebook page. And someone comes up, they I guess they took offense to it or whatever, because this person supports Raphael Warnock. You know, this person is you know, call themselves a Christian, but they support Raphael Warnock. And this person said, as a disciple of Christ, I can't tell it verbatim, but they said, but I remember them saying, as a disciple of Christ, I had to tell you that Raphael Warnock did not say that. He did not say that. And this is what he said. They came up with some mumbo jumbo that he actually said. But I pulled up a video, an interview that Raphael Warnock did with Joy Reid, or like I like to call her, Joyless Reid. And Joy Reid, she had her she had a show on MSNBC, and she's major race baiter. She's a major race baiter, and she's always talking black to black, blackity black, black. You know, everything that happens. You know, the black people this and the black people that. You know, we're living in white America and all, you know, all that crazy mess she be saying. And she get paid millions of dollars to say stupid stuff. Which makes me realize I'm probably in the wrong profession right now. I guess I can say some stupid stuff and make millions of dollars too. But I digress. But anyway, I posted the video. Well, it was an article that had an attached video. And that's exactly what Raphael Warnock said. Joy Reid, she gets up there, she says, you know, we support abortion because that's what Jesus would do. And then Raphael Warnock said, that's exactly what Jesus would do. Out of his mouth. Now, I posted this on my Facebook. Nobody responded to it. You know, the person didn't respond to it. And one thing about this is, what I notice about a lot of church people is that they will support a preacher if they have a Democrat, their policy is Democrat, you know, because especially those of us in the black church, those of us in the black church, we've been trained to believe when someone is talking about civil rights and everything that this is the right preacher to listen to, because we think civil rights is preaching the gospel, and it is not. But we all got caught up in the charisma of Raphael Warnock, and and because Herschel Walker, the only reason why people were against Herschel Walker was because he was a black man and he supports conservative causes. That's the only reason why. They say, oh, he's stupid, he sounds like he's dumb, he can't think it. Herschel Walker is a very smart man. He's very smart. And the thing about Herschel Walker is he thinks for himself. And God forbid if you're a black person and you can think for yourself in the black community. But people were celebrating Raphael Warnock. Yeah, he beat Herschel Walker. Yeah. Now, what is Raphael Warnock doing for you guys down in Atlanta? What is he doing? What is he doing for you? Oh, you just glad that he beat Herschel Walker. That's all. That's all you care about. And for those of you all who support abortion, see, abortion is a sore point with me. Abortion is I don't understand why black people support the likes of Planned Parenthood or abortion, period. Because Planned Parenthood, one of its missions was to eradicate the black race. It was a eugenics program. They convinced black preachers to go to their congregations and to convince them to sterilize or not to have many children. Folks, all you had to do is look up the Negro plan. That's all you had to do. Look up the Negro plan of Planned Parenthood. The Negro Project, excuse me. Just look up the Negro Project. The woman who founded Planned Parenthood, she hated black people. She couldn't stand black people. And she wanted them eradicated. She wanted to create the perfect Aryan race. She wanted, she supported the likes of Hitler. She supported the likes of the Ku Klux Klan. And one of her missions, Margaret Sanger, was to go to black churches because she saw the influence that black churches had over their congregations. And her plan was to convince them that sterilization and cutting down on how many children you have is a good thing. And she even stated that we don't want it to get out that we want to eradicate the black race. All of this information is out there. All of this information is out there. There's even a book that's been written called The Negro Project. And I became aware of the Negro Project, I believe, back in the 90s. Matter of fact, it was the 90s. It was the 90s when I became familiar with the Negro Project and this plan to eradicate the black race. But one thing that really surprises me is how many people in the black communities, especially these black leaders, so-called black leaders, support abortion. Now, they'll cry racism every time a cop beats up a black person. They'll cry racism there, but for some reason, they're not crying racism with Planned Parenthood. which one of its missions, one of its biggest missions was to eradicate the black race. And why black people support this organization, I do not understand it. But see, it comes from the churches. Now, I was fortunate to have been a member of a church where the pastor preached against abortion. He was strong against abortion. I was fortunate to be a part of that church, but I left for other reasons because of doctrinal issues and everything. But he did preach against abortion. He was a black pastor here in Durham, North Carolina. He was a black pastor with a black congregation. But the problem with that, I don't think the congregation, a lot of people in the congregation, they still voted Democrat. He didn't vote Democrat, but people in the congregation did. So I think a lot of people that went to the church didn't even listen to him on that aspect. Because, we's black people, we needs to stick together. Because we's black and we need to circle the wagons because the white man is out there to get us and all that crazy mess. But see, he tore through all of that. He even had an organization called Learn. I forgot what Learn meant, but it was an anti-abortion organization. And when you say you're anti-abortion, see, once again, they do the gaslighting again. And they come up with their little rebuttals. They come up with their little rebuttals, Oh, well, you forcing these women to have a baby. You're forcing them to have a baby. No one's forcing them to have a baby. Oh, if this baby is born, it's going to come up in poverty. Or it's going to be hard on the mother to have this baby. Oh, the baby is really not a person until it's born or until it gets to a certain point. But folks, and a lot of folks who say that they're always talking about science. Well, science says that life begins at conception. One of the funniest things, that people have said to me is that, I'm against science because I'm a Christian. And they think Christianity is in opposition to science. Which is funny because anybody who knows me will tell you that I'm all about science. I love science. I was coming up. I wanted to be I was an aspiring entomologist. I wanted to study insects and bugs and things like that. I used to read about sharks and snakes and things like that. Learn biology, all that type of stuff. I was all about science growing up. Matter of fact, when I was in elementary school, I said I wanted to be a scientist of some kind, So that argument doesn't fly well with me because I'm always reading books about science, But they say that Christianity and science are polar opposites. When it was Christianity that birthed the modern science movement, it didn't birth the evolution and everything. And I'm not going to talk about evolution now. That's something else. That's another subject that black people shouldn't even be supporting either, is evolution. But I'm not going to get into that right now. But science says that life begins at conception, not at birth. Because when do you know that? How do you know that this person is transforming from just a simple embryo or fetus to a person? When does that happen? And by the way, I hear a lot of people saying that, you shouldn't call it a fetus, but fetus, I forget which, I think it's Italian. I'm not sure. But the etymology of the word fetus is little person. So when you say it's just a fetus, it's just a little person. Still a person. But the thing that really boggles my mind is how many people who call themselves Christians support abortion. And the support for abortion in the black church is incredible. And people don't realize you give them the history. You tell them about Margaret Sanger, what she was about, what her purpose was, and it still goes over their heads. And people still, in the black church, they will rather vote for a person who supports the murder of an unborn child than they would someone who cares about, the life of the child, who believes in the right of that child's life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. They have dehumanized the child in the womb. They said that's really not a person. It's just a spot of blood. It's a little strawberry. Folks, these are arguments I've heard. That you're nothing but a mass of cells. It's nothing but a mass of cells. Now, that's one that gets me because, once again, that's telling you people are not paying attention to science. Because that person you see walking down the street, that's a mass of cells. Brain cells, skin cells, heart cells, liver cells, stomach cells. Everything about you is made up of cells. It's just a bunch of cells. Don't even know what you're talking about because someone has trained you to think this way. And you just throw anything out and you think you're being intellectually integral when you say these things. And you don't even know what you're talking about. Well, we can't let you're going to force a woman to have a baby. We ain't forcing a woman to have a baby. Keeping her from murdering somebody. And if you're so concerned about forcing a woman to have a baby, why don't you teach abstinence? Abstinence is the only method when it is applied is 100% effective. I remember some years ago, people were talking about abstinence and schools decided, hey, okay, well, we're gonna teach abstinence. And I don't even think it lasted a year. They say, abstinence doesn't work. How you know it? What do you mean it doesn't work? If the male counterpart and the female counterpart never get together, there's no chance of the female counterpart getting pregnant. She doesn't get up one day and just like, oh, I got pregnant. I don't understand the thought process that people go through when they think this up. But it just lets you know that they are trained to think this way. I actually had someone tell me that abstinence is the reason why we have so many teen pregnancies. I'm like, that is the stupidest thing I think I ever heard in my life. How in the world does you not having sex lead to you getting pregnant? But of course they had to calm down on the abstinence because, Planned Parenthood has already, they got their agenda together. Tell people abstinence is not good because Planned Parenthood has an agenda. Planned Parenthood is in the business of baby killing. Don't buy into this thing that, oh, they help women, they help women's services or whatever they be saying, you know. They promote women's health and all that crazy mess. No, they do not. The majority of their money is made because of abortions, not because of women's health and scanning for breast cancer and all that crazy mess. Don't y'all buy into that stupid mess. Because you can go to your local hospital and get that. Oh, they're about women's health. No, they're not. Because if they're into women's health, how many of them little girls that could have been born have they murdered? You're not about women's health. And the black community, I'm just going to say this. I'm going to say it. I'm going to be blunt. Black community is some of the dumbest people you ever want to meet. Now, if you're not a dumb black person, don't get offended by what I say. And if you do, oh well. But the black community is some of the dumbest people you're going to meet. Especially these liberal Democrat black women. They are the dumbest people. They are the dumbest people you ever want. I mean, every time one of these liberal black women get up there and they talk and you're like, oh my goodness, you have got to be kidding me. How in the world did you ascend to the height of political leadership? Listening to Maxine Waters and she's passed now, but Sheila Jackson Lee, you sit there and you listen to them and you're like, do these people even have an education? But we as a whole, the black community, they abort more of their babies than any other community in this country. A little bit more than a third of black women who become pregnant end up having an abortion. Now, they come and tell you that it's because, you know, well, what do you say about women who have been raped and incest and all that crazy mess? That's not on the child, though. You're taking it out on the child. And by the way, rape and incest is not a major component of unwanted teen pregnancies. Less than 1% of those who are molested or raped end up pregnant. Most of your unwanted teen pregnancies come from two people doing something irresponsible. And, you know, if this sounds crass, they're trying to cop a feel and they don't realize, hey, if I do this, I can end up pregnant. They don't understand that. But most of the pregnancies that are terminated, upwards of 90% of pregnancies are terminated, is simply because the mother didn't want the baby. Instead of putting the baby up for adoption, just go ahead and kill the kid. Just kill the kid. No, I don't support abortion for anything. I don't support it at all. When I was a child, I was kind of sickly and everything. I used to suffer from grand mal seizures. Matter of fact, had one incident. A family member of mine happened to have her thumb in my mouth when I had a seizure one time, and she showed me the scar and said, "Vince, you gonna pay for this one day." And I used to suffer from grand mal seizures. And by the time I got into first grade, you know, for some reason people said I was retarded. I don't understand that. But long story short, I was first grade reading on third grade reading level. But let's just say my mom knew ahead of time that all this was going to transpire, that I was going to be a sickly child, suffering from these grand mal seizures. I was actually in a coma for 2 days. And let's just say she saw this and said, and the doctor said, well, you know, your son's going to suffer from grand mal seizures and everything. So, you know, maybe you should abort this baby. That's what abortion does. Abortion is a way to purge out the undesirables. And see, the only way you could think like that is someone is coaching you on who the undesirables are. Oh, your child's going to have cerebral palsy, abort your baby. Down syndrome, abort your baby. You know, and one thing I see of these people who have this these mental these disabilities and whatever, some of them smile more than anybody. I remember when I was in high school, there was this guy, I forgot his name, he was a white guy, and he had cerebral palsy, and every Friday he and I would play paper football. He just came up to me one day, he said, "Hey, you want to play some paper football?" I said, "Sure." And every week he beat me because I'm not good at games or anything like that. He beat me in paper football every week. But he was always smiling. Never seen him mad or anything. Never heard him cuss or anything. This dude always smiled. And I noticed that about a lot of these people with these disabilities, with Down syndrome and everything, they are always smiling. Couldn't we use a little bit more of that in our world today? Couldn't we? Just someone to smile a little bit harder, you know? I used to be a kid who used to laugh a lot and everything. People used to call me goofy. Maybe I was, I don't know. But I just like to laugh a lot, you know? I still do. But they define to you who the undesirables are, and they tell you, now, you know this is going to be a lifetime of hardship for this person, and you don't want to go through that, so kill your baby. But of course they don't say kill your baby. They say, abortion is an option. They have to clean it up. That's why that ungodly organization called Planned Parenthood, that how in the world can you be called Planned Parenthood and you're telling people to terminate their parenthood? I don't get that. Makes no sense to me. But why black people support these organizations? They always crying about civil rights, and what the white man is doing and what the white man, and everything, and that we're victims and all this, and we're victimizing our own selves. Once again, we have led to the deaths of the people that we say we're trying to protect. But nobody says anything about that. The black leaders ain't going to say anything about that. They're going to keep pushing the abortion. But let a random white police officer beat down a black kid and it's rage in the streets. Let's set businesses on fire. Our priorities are mixed up. And I'm not saying you need to set businesses on fire to stop abortion or anything like that. You don't. Just keep speaking out on it. But we'll organize for something like that, but we won't organize to stop abortion, to stop the killing of unborn babies. And upwards of, I don't know how many it is, maybe 20 million black babies have been aborted in this country since Roe v. Wade came to pass. And, Roe v. Wade was dissolved 3 years ago, and people were all up in arms. Oh, what about women's health? What about women's health? I've learned that abortion has increased since Roe v. Wade has been dissolved. Roe v. Wade didn't get rid of abortion. It just made it a state issue. It took it from being a federal issue and took it to be a state issue. Let the states decide according to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I believe it's the 10th Amendment that says whatever is not listed in the Constitution would give that right over to the states. So when people come up and they say that abortion is a constitutional issue, it is not, because it is not in the Constitution. It's not in the Constitution. A woman has a right to an abortion. When? Show that to me. Where? What document says that a woman has a right to an abortion? What legal document says that? And keep in mind, just because something is legal doesn't mean it's right. Keep that in mind as well. You know, I've had people, you know, they try to argue me and say, well, abortion is legal. It's legal in this country. Doesn't mean it's right. The Bible says there's a way that seems right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. So just because it seems right to you, it's not right in the eyes of God. And Raphael Warnock himself needs to sit down somewhere talking about this is exactly what Jesus would do. Nowhere do you see in the scriptures that Jesus would support the killing of a child before that child is born. Never came into, it is not even in Jesus's mind about you killing your child. But you think because you're a preacher and you exert all this influence over your congregation, you can tell them anything because you got your congregation trained like a room full of barking seals, and they will amen and affirm everything that you say simply because you're a preacher. And not only that, you're a preacher who's a senator now. But black folks, I'm telling you all, you really need to examine yourselves individually. Examine yourselves, because a lot of what you all support is not conducive to the black community as a whole. Hate to tell you that. And I don't care what your favorite preacher, your favorite politician, your favorite leader, quote unquote, might be saying. If you say you are a person of God, then you need to examine yourself. And those of you all who say you're against abortion, but you still support these candidates, these politicians who support abortion, something wrong with you. You say you're against abortion, but you'll vote for a person who supports it. That makes no sense to me. Well, there are other, no. That's the big issue, because you believe that abortion is the murder of a child, but you're still voting for someone who supports the murder of a child. Now, the Bible says God is not the author of confusion. So I'm just going to leave that one right there. I'm just going to leave that right there. I'm just going to leave that little scripture to you right there. God is not the author of confusion. I'm going to let that sink in a little bit. But anyway, let me get ready to go to work. Hope you all got something out of what I was saying today. And you all stay safe out there. Stay healthy. This is Vincent E. Brown. I'm signing off. Until the next time, I'll see you on The Rebound.